Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly, too. USA Prepares. You know, we're delighted you're in class today, and we have a very important class. We're going to be talking about the plague. And you've heard of the bubonic plague. Millions died. And this is another plague, and it's coming from the coast of Africa. We're going to talk about that today. And we're going to talk about some of these other diseases that are really, really hard to cure and treat. Glen Parnham's with us. And we're going to be talking about hemp oil, CBD hemp oil. We're going to be talking about colloidal silver. We're going to be talking about the treatment for diseases that are just darn near impossible to treat. And I am very interested in this. Welcome, Glen.
Well, thank you, Vincent. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, the pleasure's all mine. And I'm so glad that you had the opportunity to be with us. Now, class, in case you're wondering, I stopped by Norm Shealy's clinic. And Norm Shealy has been with us on the air 2 hours every Wednesday for about 6 years now. And I stopped by Norm Shealy's clinic yesterday to say hi and to talk to him about the sapphire-enhanced adrenomedullin scalar energy device. And I have one. And I'm part of one of the trials that he's doing to see if it actually extends a person's life. So he's measuring my telomeres before and after. And it's a year-long study. And we talked about this on the air. So I was talking to Norm about it yesterday in his clinic. And I said, well, and we came up with something really interesting. And I said, let's talk about that on the air tomorrow. And he said, oh, you know, my computer has been down, and I've had a couple guys work on it. I finally found a guy that actually can fix it, and he just finished it. And so I'm 3 days behind on emails, and so that's, I guess, I didn't send you and let you know that I wouldn't be able to be here today. So I found out late yesterday afternoon, and I called our dear friend Glen Parnham and asked him if his schedule lined up with our opening that happened at the last minute. Now, Glen was going to be on Friday, but here we are early. So in case you're concerned about Norm Shealy, he's fine. He is going on a speaking engagement and out of state. So he'll be back. But he's fine. There's no problems. It's just that I didn't know about it until late yesterday afternoon. So here we are. Glen Parnham's with us. And we've got some really serious items to discuss. And, well, Glen, why don't you start with your biggest concern, please?
Well, and to let the listeners know, and please grab something to write with. This is going to be a blockbuster show, and I'm not just exaggerating. Okay, and to let people know my background, I'm Director of Research and Development for International Health. We've been based in Scottsdale, Arizona for almost 30 years. I'm 67 years old, so I'm not a youngster at this. I'm a clinical studies researcher that specializes in three primary areas: clinical nutrition, hormone biochemistry, and infectious diseases. And we're going to talk about two of these three today. So, about a year ago, because I do ongoing research projects all the time, I get calls from our thousands of clients. Well, I've been hearing about this, what you just mentioned about Dr. Shealy and that, and that machine you're testing.
Yes.
I get calls all the time. Hey, Glen, would you look into this? You're a research person. So a little over a year ago, I started to get multiple requests from our customers. What's this? What's this medical marijuana stuff going on? What's this hemp oil they're hearing about? they're hearing letters like CBD, and they're hearing that it's curing every disease known to mankind. I said, whoa, back up here. Okay, if it's a nutritional supplement, you can't use the word cure. Okay, so I said, yeah, I mean, I know a little bit about it, all right? In my earlier days, let's just say this. I not only smoked a lot of marijuana, I grew marijuana, and I sold marijuana back in my, I mean, like I said, I'm 67 years old. So, and I had been hearing something about the medicinal use. Here in Arizona, it's one of the states that have legalized it. You have, dispensaries that, people get their medical marijuana card and then, can go to the stores, who sell it, and for $20 to $60 a gram, now imagine that money and that profit, they can buy their medical marijuana, okay, and it really works for people with pain. I have such compassion for people who have terrible cancer and other terrible diseases that are in such pain. The only thing that brings them relief is smoking marijuana, okay? So I said, okay, I'll look into it. Vincent, to say that this has been the journey of a lifetime, being exposed to probably one of the biggest criminal deceptions of our lifetime. We'll talk about that. See, the word marijuana was used specifically to take away 70-plus years ago the what's been called, and there's a lot of botanists, there's scientists, there's medical doctors I've talked to who call the plant hemp. Everybody's heard of hemp. Lots of your listeners are probably using, hemp seed oil in nutritional supplements. They use hemp protein powder. Been around for, 11,000 years, but in this country. But what was taken away from us completely illegally 70-plus years ago was the medicinal use of hemp. And if people want to go onto YouTube and a search engine and just type in the American story of hemp, and just briefly, here's what happened: a group of robber barons, and this is late 20s, early 30s. Okay, and when I say robber barons, these guys were underhanded multimillionaires. I don't know if they were billionaires at that time. We're talking people like William Randolph Hearst, who ran the newspaper empire and owned all of the logging enterprises where he got his paper from. We're talking the DuPont family with their chemicals and their chemically made clothing, the nylons and acrons and all that kind of stuff. We're talking Standard Oil, the ultimate robber baron of the Rockefeller family. Okay, we're talking, as an example. Okay, and then the medicinal value. The pharmaceutical cartel at that time was just ramping up to introduce their synthetic poison drugs. And these guys had to get rid of hemp. Why hemp? Why are there botanists calling it the sacred plant? Because there has never been a plant, there still isn't a plant on planet Earth. And I've had some botanists, they're not even Christians, okay, say man did not create hemp. God is the only one who could have created a plant like hemp. Right now, they're up to 15,000 different uses for the one plant. Now, one thing we do know, back then, what these robber barons feared the most, because hemp has been around. In fact, most of the founders of the United States were hemp farmers, because from hemp, you can get food. The hemp seed is the most nutritious food known to mankind. The hemp seed oil that comes from the seed, incredibly nutritious. Hemp protein. You can make paper. William Randolph Hearst, feared the competition. As an example, the Declaration of Independence is written on hemp paper. Incredibly durable, incredibly inexpensive. Okay, the DuPont family. You can make fabric, clothing, from hemp that lasts 2 to 3 times longer than any of this crap in the marketplace, and it's not Farmer John type of clothes. We're talking, I've seen some of the most beautiful silk-like fabric made from hemp that you can even imagine, okay? Fuel. You can get a fuel from the hemp plant. And understand, hemp is a weed. It grows probably about 1.5 times faster than any other plant on planet Earth. That's why the hemp farmers loved it. And it doesn't take any herbicides or pesticides to grow it. Insects and that do not like hemp. They don't bother it whatsoever. You can get a fuel, like a gasoline, a fuel from hemp, that could power every engine in the United States with no pollution. So, Standard Oil didn't like that idea. And then the pharmaceutical cartel. And this is what bothers me most, because the value of the medicine that comes from hemp could have saved millions of lives. So here's what these guys did. They got together, and they said, how do we eliminate the competition of hemp so we can make billions upon multiple billions of dollars without any competition from this inexpensive plant to grow? What did they do? Well, anybody who has smoked marijuana in their lifetime. Now, marijuana, that word marijuana, is less than 1% of the hemp plant. It takes a specially grown segment of hemp to create what the Mexicans call marijuana. So these guys said, you know what we need to do? We need to demonize it. We need to, and some of the most racist things, you think there's people saying racist things now. Back in the late 20s, early 30s, okay, going into the Depression, they decided, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pick on the Mexicans. They're coming across the border, and they're bringing with them this devil's drug called marijuana, Mary Jane. And they said, we're going to create this story that it's being given to our teenagers, and it turns our young women, when they smoke a joint, into whores who just lay back for anybody. And then it turns men into raping maniacs. Oh, I hear some music, so we'll come back and talk about this.
Yeah. Glen Parnham's with us, and let me give you his phone number for his office, 800-481-9987, 800-481-9987. I've got some other numbers for you when we come back. Glen Parnham's with us, and we're talking about hemp, and it's also known as, and incorrectly, marijuana. And by the way, class, George Washington, President number 1 of the United States of America, cultivated hemp at Mount Vernon, his plantation, for industrial uses. And there's an article called mountvernon.org, and it says, throughout his lifetime, George Washington cultivated hemp at Mount Vernon for industrial uses. The fibers from hemp had excellent properties for the making of rope and sail canvas, which was a major need in the age of the sailing ship. In addition, hemp fibers could be spun into thread for clothing, or, as indicated in Mount Vernon records, for use in repairing the large seine fishing nets that Washington used in his fishing operation along the Potomac. Now, I've been to Mount Vernon, and I was, a class tour when I was very, very, very young. I'm talking about early days of elementary school. And I remember the tour guide at Mount Vernon telling our class that they grew hemp right there. That's what they called it, hemp. This was back in probably the 1950s. Yes. So, Glenn, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, the history of hemp goes back 11,000 years. They traced it back that far. Okay? So, what happened back in the 20s and 30s? All right? You had a concerted effort to demonize marijuana, but it wasn't marijuana they were after. They used that as an excuse and to get hemp out of the marketplace so they could do their robber baron stuff. Okay, but thank God. All right, even though and it worked. If people have never seen a movie, and it's on the internet, just type in on YouTube Reefer Madness, REEFER. That's a nickname for marijuana. Reefer Madness. It shows, and it's a complete lie. we used to watch it years ago as we were getting stoned. Okay. Oh, look what it's supposed to happen to us when we smoke it. I mean, it was the most racist lie. You know, the Mexicans were smuggling marijuana over and selling it to jazz musicians and giving to our daughters, and they were turning into raving whores, and the men were turning into maniacs. Okay, absolute propaganda, and it worked. So, and then they got the politicians. You know, so to think that, you know, our the spectrum of politicians are corrupt now, and we're finding that out so deep and dark. 70 years ago, it was just as deep and dark, and it probably goes back to the founding of the country. So they got hemp. They didn't pick on marijuana. They used that, and they got hemp to be made illegal. But thank God some scientists had seen some of the medicinal properties of it, how hemp, okay, and specifically, you know, hemp seed oil, and that the food part of it had very promising medical effects on diseases. So they kept researching it. And now what has happened, because, and you can't get away from the political BS still going on, because what's in the news all the time? Medical marijuana. Medical marijuana. They're still using the marijuana part because, if you can imagine this, marijuana still classified by our drug administration in this country as a Class 1 drug. You know what other drug is a Class 1 drug? Heroin. So they're classifying marijuana in the same category as heroin, still claiming there's no medicinal value. Gee, that's funny, government. And why do you have patents on CBD hemp oil for curing, not just treating, curing epileptic seizures? But of course, you still have big moneyed interests, corruption beyond belief. So they still have marijuana classified as a Class 1 heroin-like drug with no value except to get high. Well, that just shows you the ongoing corruption. But thank God, okay, and the God of the universe is laughing because the research kept going on. What is it about? And then, because what they have discovered is this. You have two major molecules. The molecule in marijuana that gets us high, what's called a psychoactive molecule, that when you smoke it, you get a buzz. It's called THC. And that's there. It's great for pain. Okay, and a lot of people, still think there's huge medicinal values on it. Well, I've talked to enough scientists and medical doctors who are starting to understand, look, there's benefits to THC, especially for pain, to take away pain from people really suffering.
Hold that thought.
I'm sorry?
Glenn, hold that thought. We'll be right back. We'll to another commercial break. Glen Parnham's with us. IHSite.com. IHSite.com. As in International Health Site. SITE.com. Glenn, would it be okay if I give out your research office telephone number?
Yes, I was just going to say, because now we're going to get into the meat of healing. And I don't care what disease your listeners have been told by the medical cartel that they have. Okay, I already spend 8 to 10 hours a day on the phone doing free consultations. All right, and yes, give it out. And I don't care what disease state you've been told you have, listeners. You call me, and we'll get you fixed. There is no incurable disease.
Let me give you that number. 480-429-0021. That's Glenn's research office. This is his direct number, 480-429-0021. Class, is the same number that I call when I need to reach Glen Parnham, Parnham. Okay? Website, IH, International Health, IHSITE.com.
Yep, and I'll be giving out a second website when we finally get into the CBD oil.
I have a quick question for you. I looked up the states where medical marijuana is legal. Now, is that the same as for CBD oil? Or is CBD... CBD's oil. Go ahead.
And medical marijuana is legal. I think they're up to about 30 some odd states.
29.
CBD oil is legal. See, because in all 50 states, there's no restrictions whatsoever because it's not marijuana. It has nothing to do with marijuana. If you use CBD oil, which we'll get into using, it's not going to show up on a drug test. There's no THC in it. Just keep in mind the use. Every time you hear the mainstream media or the government talk about medical marijuana, they want that word in the people's psyche of marijuana so they can keep their fingers in the regulatory agencies because they have some very sinister plans in the future. See, they can't stop this movement. The medical marijuana movement is so big now, all these states, I mean, and like California legalized marijuana 20 years ago. Okay, Arizona, right. You know, it's legal, and you can get a marijuana card for about $150. And I was chuckling the other day because I get all these emails. I'm signed up now for all these emails on medical marijuana sites and the science and the research going on. And there was an article, the very first medical marijuana drive-through in the country. So it's like a McDonald's. You can drive through with your card, and you drive through, and you tell them what you want, and they'll, you know, they have the marijuana buds there, and they'll put it in a container. You take it with you. They opened it. There's a very famous retirement community in Arizona called Sun City, Arizona. Okay, that's where they opened it, in a retirement community, the very first one. So you're going to see them pop up all over the country. So just keep in mind, you are going to continually hear medical marijuana to keep in our psyche, so the government still has their fingers in this. CBD oil is completely different. And here's where the miracle comes in, Vincent. Okay, even though hemp was made illegal by our corrupt government back in the 30s, by just outright lies, okay, the research kept going all around the world. And it kept building and building because, and here's what has now been found beyond any shadow of a doubt. There is a molecule in hemp. Now, hemp is not marijuana. Marijuana is in the hemp family. But when your listeners hear the word hemp, don't confuse it with marijuana because it's completely legal. They found a molecule that's called an endocannabinoid. That's why we abbreviate it CBD. Can you imagine saying endocannabinoid over and over and over again? It's a molecule that only comes from hemp. And the research kept going on and on. And 30 years ago, now here's where the miracle, and I believe God himself was involved with this. I've had botanists say this. They said there's no way man created this plant. You have right now, and I've read between 15 and 25,000 different products that can be created from one plant, hemp. I mean, everything from food to medicine to makeup. I mean, everything imaginable. So the research kept going on. About 30 years ago, some incredible scientists from not only the Middle East, Israel, and around the world discovered something in the human body, and they didn't have a clue how to describe it. They describe it now as the endocannabinoid system of the human body. Well, what the heck is that, Glenn? Listen to me. And this is where the mystery builds, but I don't believe it's a mystery at all. I'm going to use an example of what everybody has heard of that's very important in the human body. It's called the endocrine system. The endocrine system is hormones. And the endocrine system is made up of organs that produce hormones, the most powerful chemical messengers known to medical science. And then when the organs produce them and excrete it into the bloodstream, then you have these things called receptor sites. It's like a lock and a key. So the hormones go by the receptor sites. They go into the receptor site. They have a chemical reaction. They do what they're supposed to do, and then are excreted. Well, what are hormones, Glenn? Every woman knows the word estrogen, and then progesterone. Every man knows the word testosterone. Insulin, thyroid medication, okay, that's a hormone. And to show you how powerful the endocrine system is, and I know about this because what started international health 30 years ago was when my wife asked me to research hormones. Because women who have PMS and, have those terrible mood swings, that just means the hormones are out of balance. So what I discovered was this. Let's just take estrogen. Let's just take the miracle of birth. The hormone estrogen is responsible for building up the blood lining in a woman's uterus when she starts to menstruate. To show you how powerful, it's the most powerful chemical messenger known to medical science. Picture a woman standing next to an Olympic-sized swimming pool. That's her body. In her fingertips is one BB from a BB gun. That's the estrogen. The amount of estrogen, any family member out there who's had women who've had girl babies, remember the summer. It normally happens in the summer for some reason, when all of a sudden that flat-chested little 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old girl says, "Mom, what are these?" And the breasts start to grow, and the pubic hair grows, and the roundness of the hips, all the secondary sexual characteristics of this little girl going into puberty, being able to give birth and get pregnant, or get pregnant and give birth. The amount of estrogen that it takes to do that is equivalent to that BB being dropped in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. 1/1000th of a gram. Unbelievably powerful. Okay, so the endocrine system, it's a whole system in the body, and any woman or man who has hormones out of balance knows it, because they feel like crap. The scientists over 30 years ago discovered that there's an endocannabinoid system in the human body. They said, what is this doing there? There's receptor sites. There's more receptor sites for CBD than there are for hormones. And they said, well, why? What is that doing there? Okay, then they kept researching, and they found out, that our body is supposed to make CBD. So that means somewhere in our evolution, the God of the universe, we used to take in huge levels of CBD in our food. It probably was hemp-based. That's the one with the most CBD. And then what they found out was, wait a minute, the CBD receptor sites in the human body are empty. And when they're empty, it creates what's known as a endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome. And they kept researching and researching and researching. They said, my God, that could be the root cause of virtually every disease known to mankind, because the only time the body makes CBD, 2 times. Somebody who's really into, meditating. Eastern people who meditate a lot, they can reach a certain plateau where a bliss molecule, that's what they actually call it, a bliss molecule is released from their, praying and from their doing what they're doing, and it creates bliss. The other one, any long-distance runners who are listening, there's that expression, hitting the wall. These marathon runners, they push their body so far, and the body says, I can't go any further, stop. They push past it, called hitting the wall, and they almost get high. That's the only 2 times that they've known. That's a CBD molecule being excreted from the brain. And I've talked to runners who experienced that. They said, like, all pain goes away. It's like their feet aren't even hitting the ground. It creates this incredible feeling of floating. Okay? So that's how powerful the CBD receptor sites are. So research kept going on. Now, here we are. We are at the crossroads of what some top medical doctors, some researchers are talking about. This is going to turn out to be the greatest discovery of our generation. So some of them are calling it the rediscovery of vitamin C that took place in the late 20s, early 30s. Changed everything we know about the vitamin industry. That CBD, that molecule from hemp oil. And now, there's 23,000. Let that number soak in. 23,000 medical papers already written, not about marijuana, about CBD. Okay, cannabinoid. 23,000. There's ongoing right now, as we speak, 3 thousands of the most high-tech medical studies you can imagine, because here's what they found. When CBD comes in contact with any of the thousands of known medical conditions that's plaguing mankind, it eliminates all of them. I can't use the word cure because the FDA said, only drugs can cure. It's CBD oil, and we'll talk about that when we get back, because I have a website to send people to see the list of these diseases.
Yeah. We're going into a commercial break. Glenn, hold that thought. We'll be right back. Class, Glen Parnham's with us. ihsite.com. ihsite.com. And Glenn, I've got David in San Francisco calling in. David, welcome.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Vincent. Hey, thanks for that invite, too, on the guest thing. I got tied up for a couple of weeks. But I wanted to ask Glenn about varieties. As I understand it, when hemp was legal, there were so many varieties that they probably, well, you know what an extension agent is. The county seat, or, the county has an extension agent to help the farmers. There were probably monographs from 1777 to 1937 talking about the rope variants and making oils and making paper, what are the best variations. They were doing, seed cross-pollination to get the best paper and all this other stuff. And all of a sudden, that was all outlawed. So it was like millions of dollars were invested into hemp, and all of a sudden it's all outlawed because they changed the name to marijuana.
You're right, brother. That's just a small part of the criminal deception that kept us from having the miraculous sacred plant and all of its medicinal value and the other things called hemp. You're exactly right, and good for you for looking into the history of it.
Well, yeah, we've known it for years. I was brought up in where Monsanto was headquartered, so they laughing about their trophies was kind of their name of the game. But I was also going to raise this thing with global warming. If you looked at places like western Kansas that probably had tonnage of hemp, it was great for silage, just for raising cattle.
Yep.
If you were going to have nothing else, just silage hemp was great cattle food, a lot of protein, but it puts the roots in the soil, and, man, that stuff won't let loose. So when you have global warming and you have flash floods, 51 inches of rain, that's a lot of erosion, and hemp is going to hold that, they've got some real tenacious roots. So when you think about it, just, if nothing else, scattering those seeds in any place that is going to be, subject to flash floods.
Well, that's why you have thousands of farmers now, quitting the regular farming. I know in Kentucky, they're dumping the tobacco farming, starting hemp again. They see the writing on the wall, which I did, that's why I contacted some of these farming communities, and I said, hey, I've been hearing a lot of farmers are dumping their traditional growing and starting to grow hemp again. They said, you cannot even imagine what's going on. They see the writing on the wall, and you're exactly right, brother, and that, that's why when I discovered, and I'm still researching, what I was talking about, generically, CBD oil, generic, and I said, my Lord, this is the greatest miracle I've ever seen in all the medical research, the growing and that, and all these people now waking up. And then I said, so I started to get specific. I said, okay, how many companies are actually manufacturing CBD oil? I couldn't believe it. I typed in CBD oil manufacturers, hundreds upon multiple hundreds of little companies and individuals were taking hemp and squeezing the oil out of it and selling the hemp oil. Well, so I kept researching. I said, it can't all be good. They can't all have processing facilities that are doing it the right way. So as I got more specific, looking for the best CBD oil, because there's no question. Anybody who questions the scientific research on this needs to have their head examined. 23,000 papers, medical papers, and I want to, so I kept looking, and right now we have found the very best hemp oil, And there is a website that I put together, Get the Best, very simple, getthebestcbdoil.com. Getthebestcbdoil.com. Because here's what I discovered. So even with the old technology of the hemp oil, some miracles. One of the videos I have up on getthebestcbdoil.com. The first one, Parkinson's. Anybody who's had relatives or loved ones with Parkinson's, it's a debilitating brain disease that gets worse and worse and worse. This one gentleman who had it documented.
Glenn, hold that thought.
Okay.
We're going into a top of the hour news and commercial announcements, and I know that one of our instructors who has Parkinson's is listening intently. We'll be right back. We're talking about CBD oil, hemp, and treatments. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Here we go. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Glen Parnham's with us. International Health. Website, ihsite.com, as in International Health, IHSITE.com. Let me give you a phone number. Now, this phone number is his direct line to his research office, 480-429-0021, 480-429-0021. Glenn, we've got David on the line still. David, did you have anything else that you wanted to share or ask of Glenn?
Oh, well, I was just going to maybe suggest the George Washington Carver. A lot of people remember him. He was the guy that invented so many different things, from the peanut and the soybean. And those were also designed to specifically improve the soil. And he had realized, you had mentioned cotton as being, ruining the soil. And so Carver was specifically trying to improve the soil. And so when he came up with all of his inventions, when you look at the idea that he was trying to improve the soil, he took all of his patents and put them at public domain. I mean, if you imagine the hundreds of billions of dollars that he created with inventions, different kinds of printer's ink and oils and all incredible paints and plastics. He had plastics that would biodegrade in hours, in the sunlight, in water, but he had plastics that would last 300 years. And so there were all sorts of things that would, just like hemp, you can make 10,000 products. Soy and peanuts were the same way. And and so we, the name of your show, USA Prepares, Vincent, all of these can be local jobs. You could make a shed and make printer's ink out of it with a quarter acre of soybeans, and you would be improving your soil. So you'd be getting better collateral every year you grow soy and or peanuts. Those legumes put nitrogen back in the soil. And
you've done your homework, brother. There's no question about it. You've done your homework, and good for you. Okay?
Yeah, we just have a lot of options. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing, and that's what's so exciting about this research going out about hemp. All these thousands of farmers going back to saying, the heck with growing other stuff. Hemp is the plant. Hemp is going to change the world. It could run the entire industrial base of not only the United States, but virtually every company or every country in the world. Okay, and I need to finish up because we had to talk about the infectious disease.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, David,
thank you, brother. Keep up the research. Good for you. Okay?
David, thank you for being with us.
Yep. All right. So Vincent. Okay. So as I was generically researching, I said, well, this is something I have to offer our customers. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of customers built up over 30 years, and I have prided myself. We only carry products with clinical studies that work. Because 99% of the vitamin industry has been bought out by the pharmaceutical cartel, and they're synthetic crap. But people take it, and they're spending billions of dollars. It's not doing any good because it doesn't absorb into the only place that matters. God's word is very clear. Life of the flesh is in the blood. End of discussion, end of debate. If you take a vitamin or a supplement of some kind, if it doesn't get into your bloodstream, you're wasting your time and money, and that's 99% of the crap out there in the marketplace of nutritional supplements. So I said, okay, CBD oil is the way to go. Now, how do I start to find out who's got the best? And, 98% of the CBD oils were, disqualified right away. They were being made, and, they didn't make them properly. But there were a few good ones. And, again, let's go back to that website. GetTheBestCBDOil.com. And the very first video, it's got a series of videos up there and articles. The very first one, is a 2 or 3 minute segment from this gentleman with stage 4 Parkinson's. He's a former cop, and stage 4, he just couldn't sit still. It's neurodegenerative. It ruins the brain. But he was exposed to CBD oil, the old technology. Keep in mind, things are moving forward so quickly. You have the old technology of CBD oil with very large molecules, very hard to absorb. The molecule is so big, only 10% of the CBD oil, even if it was good, was getting into the bloodstream, which made it really expensive. But the very first video, and they filmed this. His friend came over. He had some of the old CBD oil. The guy's there just tremoring all over. He puts a few drops between his cheek and his gum. 3 minutes later, he's sitting there talking like a regular human being. No shakes, no nothing. It completely stopped the degeneration and the signals from the brain of Parkinson's. And so I saw that, and I said, who's got the best? Well, there's only one company right now. Now, is it going to stay the best? You have billions of dollars rushing in to the CBD science part of the industry. Biggest, fastest growing part of the U.S. economy. Newsweek had a front page cover on it. It said weed. It showed a golden hemp leaf, marijuana leaf, hemp leaf, and under it says America's new #1 cash crop. There are billions of dollars flowing into the research. So that means, and I love competition, Vincent, that means you've got scientists looking at this. The top scientist accepted now as the top cannabis scientist, his name is Dr. Christopher Shealy. He looked at this large molecule problem and said, wait a minute, CBD oil raw materials are incredibly expensive anyway. And then if you're only getting a 10% improvement, then it really makes it expensive. So he took it into his laboratory. He's a specialist in nano-sizing molecules. He took it into his company. He nano-sizes, it's called a nano-emulsion, with a phospholipid wrap. He got the molecule so small and created a hemp oil, a CBD oil. It's in a meter dose spray pump. You're not messing around with eardroppers and eyedroppers full of oil. It took the absorption from 10% to 80 to 95% within 5 minutes. I have seen this take people with brain fog, and they're walking around like a zombie, spray it under their tongue, and within a few minutes, it's like everything clears up. But on that website, GetTheBestCBDOil.com, the very last article, you click on it, and this list of conditions pops up. I want to read some of them. And this is just a short list of what the medical studies have shown CBD helps with. So acne, ADD, ADHD, addiction, opioid addiction. CBD oil will be the magic bullet for this opioid addiction that Trump was talking about. And, we got to do something, and we do have to do something. And CBD oil, if you have any addiction, it'll take care of it. AIDS, ALS, Lou Gehrig's, Alzheimer's. Keep in mind, anything to do with the brain, it fixes it. Antibiotic resistance, we'll talk about that in the coming segment about the plague in that. Anxiety, arteriosclerosis, heart disease, arthritis, asthma, autism, bipolar, cancer, digestive issues, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, hormone disorders. The list goes fibromyalgia, glaucoma, heart disease, inflammation, irritable bowel, liver disease. And when you click on these disease states, all of the medical studies come up. And osteoporosis, Parkinson's, PTSD for our troops, rheumatism, schizophrenia, skin conditions, sleep disorders. 40 million Americans can't sleep. Stress, stroke, okay? And these are published studies on PubMed, which is the largest published medical studies. So here we have a product. It's created by this company called PMB, Prime My Body. As of right now, they have the very best one. Does that mean they're going to have in the future? I don't know. I like competition, and as billions of dollars flow into this, I know there are multiple companies working on. They won't be able to have the same patented technology that Dr. Shade has, but see, I like the best product. So as of right now, the Prime My Body hemp oil is miraculous. All right, I'm hearing things from people. We sell it. We can hardly keep it in stock. But people need to have hope, because I talk to people every day who've been told they have this disease and this disease, and they're taking this drug and this drug, some of them 10, 15 drugs a day. So we help them wean off. That's why when they call me at my research office, 480-429-0021, if you get the voicemail, leave your name and number. I'll always call you back. I was on a radio or a YouTube channel yesterday talking about this. Our phone hasn't stopped ringing yet. So we'll catch up, but just understand there's hope. This is going to cause an absolute civil war within not only the nutritional industry, because this still has to be classified as a nutritional product. And that silly, stupid FDA disclaimer. This product has never been shown to cure or treat any disease. That phrase that the federal, the Drug Administration, which is nothing more than the attack dog for the pharmaceutical cartel, okay? Don't get me started on that satanic group, okay? That statement is going to be challenged in federal court because the CBD oil cure diseases. Well, I can't say that, but see, all the medical studies, 23,000 medical studies, 3,000 ongoing, okay, are proving that CBD oil, any disease that comes up against that molecule, can't stay in the human body. So I personally believe the God of the universe, who I worship, is laughing. He's saying, okay, all of you groups out there who are causing diseases, because anybody who is naive enough to think the pharmaceutical industry doesn't spread disease, okay, and cause disease, you're really naive and you haven't done your research. I'll give you an example. Most people have heard of that organization called the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, right?
Hold that thought. We're going to a break. Tell us more about CDC when we come back.
Okay.
Class, Glen Parnham's with us. And if you go to usaprepares.com, page 1, there's a link that'll take you to some of the items that we've been discussing, including the audio of the CBD oil. So that's usaprepares.com, page number 1. And also, if you go to USA Prepares, click on the Instructors tab, you'll find a link to Glen Parnham as well, including his contact information. So let me give you one more time. Let's see. Well, Glenn, why don't you give us your contact information?
Okay,
please.
Personal number at my research office, 480-429-0021. We're in Arizona. That's West Coast time. If you get the voicemail, it just means I'm on the phone doing a consultation, as I do 8 to 10 hours a day that I'll do with anybody who calls free of charge. I don't care what disease you have. The pharmaceutical cartel are a bunch of liars. Now, don't get me wrong. They're great for trauma. Somebody has a heart attack, stroke, broken bone, hit by a car. You're not going to call your local chiropractor and go to see him. You're going to go to a trauma center. I've seen it up close and personal with my own relatives. What they can do at a trauma center with a busted-up human body is nothing short of miraculous. But if you ask a classically trained medical doctor who's trained in the medical schools run and controlled by the pharmaceutical cartel, anything about wellness, you might as well call your plumber and schedule brain surgery. That's why I want you to call me. And now we have a tool that's unlike anything I've seen in 30 years. Now, the toll-free number, and that's up on the website, Get the Best, very simple, getthebestcbdoil.com. okay? And it's got our toll-free number if you want to order up the product. But it's important that people understand we're still being deceived. I had mentioned the Center for Disease Control before the last break. Most people think, well, that's a government organization. No, it's not. It is a privately held, for-profit corporation licensed by the U.S. government, and they own patents. They own patents on vaccines. They own the patent on the Ebola virus. What? Come on, that's a conspiracy theory. No, it's not. Look it up. The CDC is a group of private corporations who want to vaccinate everybody with the aborted baby cells that are in vaccines. They own the patent on Ebola. Gee, and look what's happening right now. All the drug resistance going on, and what's going on right now in Africa. And isn't it interesting? There has not been one word, or if there is, maybe one little story here on mainstream media about what's going on in Africa. And if you remember, a year or so ago, you had that terrible outbreak of Ebola. Where did it start? In Africa. Why do they always choose Africa? Because they can blame it on poor living conditions and, the unsanitary conditions, and it gets out of control. That's a bunch of BS. You have multi-trillion-dollar satanic organizations who want to eliminate 90% of the world population, and God's Word even talks about pestilence in the end of the age. So right now, as we speak, the island of Madagascar, okay, and I got some articles I'm going to go to on my computer right here, okay? Madagascar is right off the east coast of Africa. It is the island where the rich and the famous go to party, the rich and famous Europeans, okay? They have an outbreak now of plague. Now, what's the plague? Everybody's heard that term. Bubonic plague, pneumonic plague. What, it wiped out, 2/3 of Europe during the Dark Ages, okay? It comes from a bacterium called Y. pestis, Yersinia pestis. So let's just say Y. pestis. And you have two forms. You have what's called the bubonic, B-U-B-O-N-I-C, bubonic plague, that can only be transferred human to human with the bite of a flea or a tick. They always use insects to do this, and rats and things like that. Then, when it mutates, it becomes highly contagious. They normally do not show up together, and it turns from the bubonic plague into what's called the pneumonic plague. Pneumonia. So in Madagascar, right now, and I have an article here from revolutionradio.org, the plague continues to spread to 10 more African countries. Red Cross fears global outbreak of Black Death. Something different this time. So you have both the bubonic and the pneumonic plague at the same time. The pneumonic, if people have cough, it can be spread like flu. That means if they get on an airplane...
Class, if you'd like to talk to Glen Parnham, his direct number at his research office is 480-429-0021. 480-429-0021. Glenn, I was with Norm Shealy, Dr. Shealy, yesterday in his clinic. And as I was leaving, I gave him a great big hug, and I said, Dr. Shealy, I know you're going to be flying. Be really careful in that aluminum tube with the recycled air. And that's one of the things that you were talking about. Now, as far as the plague, right now, the plague in Madagascar and the surrounding areas has infected about 1,300 people. 1300. And 9 or 10 countries, depending on which report you read, at least 93 deaths and maybe as high as 124. That's pretty darn serious.
Yeah, and it's just getting started.
Right.
We aren't even in our... see, because one of my specialties is infectious diseases, I'm signed up for every website that sends me, emails every day about warning on breakouts in this country and around the world, okay? And they even made a comment. Why isn't mainstream media talking about this? Do they really want a pandemic to start in the United States? Do they want to use that as an excuse to cover up all this corruption that's going on? Look at this crap going on about Russia this and Russia that, when Clinton sold 20% of our uranium to the Russians, and, of course, nothing's being said. Okay? Just the headline. The World Health Organization's warned that there is something different about this new Black Death epidemic. Yeah, there's something different. If I have my opinion, I can't prove this yet, it's man-made. It's being released on purpose, all right? And it's a form of the Y pestis, okay? But this winter, I'm begging people, get ready. One of the things that the quality CBD oil does, they've already tested against infectious diseases and antibiotic resistance, because if you get this, especially the pneumonic part of this, the bubonic can only be spread if you're physically bitten. The pneumonic plague, somebody has it, they get on an airplane, the flight is an hour, they're coughing with recirculated air like you talked about with Dr. Shealy, then everybody on there has been exposed to it, and it gets in their lungs. Okay, now what's the good news? The God of the universe is not going to leave us defenseless against this. We have a product called Super Silver. It's a nanoparticle silver with about 55 medical studies. It's been specifically tested against Y pestis. Does that mean that if this is a genetically modified plague that's being spread on purpose, does that mean it's going to work? I don't know. It's working against every other thing. I get calls every day, people in this country, the chemtrails, and I've got the chemtrail flu, and the lungs are just filled up, and, the only thing that helped was the Super Silver, the nanoparticle, okay? And I'm going to encourage people, if you don't already have one, okay, get what's called a nebulizer, okay? We carry them, all right? They're about $250, and it's the one we carry is by an Omron. They're the number one manufacturer. What's a nebulizer? That's what asthmatics use. And you can get them down for $25 or $30. Here's the only problem. All of those plug in, okay? But what it is, you can put the Super Silver into the little reservoir, and it turns it into a microfine mist, and you breathe it into your lungs. We've helped hundreds of people who've been classified as asthmatics not have asthma anymore, because asthma is a fungal infection of the lining of the lungs. So you breathe in, and the Super Silver, with the medical studies they have, it kills every form of bacteria, virus, fungus, yeast, and candida. Okay, so if you need to save up, and I chose the Omron, it's the only one that runs on batteries. Okay, and you can get an adapter, like $25 extra, that you can plug in while we still have power. Let me lay out a scenario, and I personally believe that these evil corporations who run the world and want to do away and create panic and chaos, they could pull this off. You keep hearing over and over and over, North Korea, could do an EMP attack. You could have a sun, or something happen with the sun, and an EMP, it's a sun thing, knocks out all of our electricity. Imagine this chaotic condition, Vincent. We have the grid go down.
We talked about it yesterday and the day before.
They release a pandemic. And the only way to save you and your family is if you have a nebulizer that doesn't plug in. Omron is the only one that runs on 2 AA batteries. And you put the Super Silver in the reservoir, and it turns it into a micro mist. You put on the mask, and you can breathe it directly into your lungs. Imagine that chaos. A pandemic is released on purpose. Oh, they wouldn't do that, Glenn. You sound like a conspiratorial nut. The hell they won't. They've already done it around the world. So imagine that. The power goes down or there's a problem. You can't plug in your nebulizer, okay, and you have to sit there and watch your family die because the pneumonic plague, and it's already broken out in this country a few times, could be Ebola. They can release anything that they choose to release, and I'm not trying to sound like some conspiratorial nut. I'm talking to you as a scientist that this winter, I've already seen reports it's supposed to be colder than it's ever been, and, that things are going to spread and that. So please look at the research and see the nano silver of super silver is not like a regular colloidal silver. That term colloidal silver, you got 50,000 different websites who sell what they call a colloidal silver. That just means a molecule of silver suspended in water. Well, let's go past that. This is, 2017. Let's go to where the science is, and that's where the nanoparticles. See, it's all about absorption, isn't it? Like with the CBD oil. What's the best CBD oil on the market right now? The one that's got 80 to 90% absorption within 5 minutes, because the scientist in charge of the company nano-sized that molecule, so when you spray it under your tongue, you get the effects directly into your bloodstream. Same with the nanoparticle of silver. It's a very tiny particle. They've proven that it goes through the mucosal lining of your mouth, okay? It penetrates into the bloodstream and purifies, okay, the organs that purify the blood and knocks out viruses, bacteria, okay? And, that's on our regular website, ihsite.com. The research is up there. And see, the strength of silver products are determined by what's called ppm, parts per million. We have a 40 part per million, 16-ounce bottle, and we have a 200 part per million with unbelievable medical studies on it. It actually has been tested against the bacterium part of Lyme disease. And Lyme disease is a growing epidemic spreading across the country. Hundreds of thousands of people get it every year. It's a man-made disease. That's a whole show in itself. It's a biological weapon that was created on Plum Island off the coast of Lyme, Connecticut, and that's because the first scientist put in charge of Plum Island after World War II was the Nazi scientist whose specialty was spreading germ warfare with fleas and ticks. Oh, Glenn, you sound like a conspiratorial nut. Look it up. It's on the Internet. There's a declassified military document called Operation Paperclip. We did not beat the Nazis in World War II. We went into partnership with them. Where did we get our technology for our rockets? Werner von Braun, and admitted out of his own mouth, Satanist. He's the one who developed the rocket technology for the Nazis. And then, the mind control that was talked about in Congress in the 70s, okay, that came from Nazi Germany, and all the other things that they have developed. But the first doctor in charge of Plum Island, which is still there, it's the military industrial pharmaceutical base for development of germ warfare right off the coast of the East Coast, the city where Lyme disease first showed up, right off the coast. But the first guy in charge of it was a Nazi scientist to develop germ warfare spread by fleas and ticks. How's Lyme disease spread? Fleas and ticks. What a coincidence. But you know what? As I said before, and I will reiterate it, the God of the universe is not going to allow us to be completely helpless against what these companies are doing to us. That's why I believe for such a time as this, look at the CBD molecule. They can't find a disease that it doesn't kill and cure. I can't use the word cure. Doesn't help with. Okay? Black plague, Ebola, all this man-made stuff. That's going to get released. And your show is called USA Prepares. Don't sit there with your head in the sand or whatever part of the anatomy you choose to stick it in and say, oh, everything's going to be okay. Trump's in office. Everything's going to be great. Are you friggin' kidding me? If they're not stocking up on food, they're ridiculous. The plague is coming. Famine is coming. It's going to, just all these things, it's going to go boom, 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 boom. And these people who have control of the world, just imagine no electricity. Well, that can't happen, Glenn. They'll restore electricity. Really? Puerto Rico, how many weeks are we from, since the hurricane hit Puerto Rico, 80% of the island has no electricity. They don't talk about it much on mainstream media anymore. You have,
it's interesting.
But imagine no power.
Yeah.
Okay.
We talk, the things that you're talking about, we've been talking about.
I know.
Way early.
Praise God, you are a watchman on the wall, brother. You're a watchman.
Well, I wanted to make a comment. previous hour you talked about meditation. You talked about bliss, the state of bliss. And I mentioned Norm Shealy a bunch of times on this broadcast. Norm Shealy meditates every day.
Yep.
He puts himself into a state of bliss. He manufactures an essential oil he calls bliss. It absolutely, positively works. Norm Shealy has written over 30 books. He is Surgeon of the Year. He is an innovator, an inventor. And so what I'm doing is I'm putting an exclamation point on the things that you are saying because I've witnessed them. And colloidal silver, inhaling it through a nebulizer, I do it every day. And my health is coming back. I was near death. I was near death. Absolutely, and I'm not exaggerating. First time I've said it on the air. And here I am. I'm back. We'll be right back.
Hey, Diane?
Class, I've got a post on the website, usaprepares.com, usaprepares.com. And the title of it says, Audio Introduction to CBD Oil, as discussed on USA Prepares with Glen Parnham and Vincent Finelli. If you click on that, there's a link to the audio, and then it also says, please contact Glen at his research office, 480-429-0021. So the contact information is there, and the audio is there. The link to the website is there. It's all there on page number 1. Glenn, I just got off the phone during the commercial break with our one of our instructors, and she has Parkinson's. And
Yep.
I suggested, I talked to her daughter, and I suggested that she listen to the download of the broadcast because she's a college instructor. She's at work right now.
Yep.
And that she listen to it and, learn about it and take action immediately.
And have her call me and have her watch the video. I mean, to see, and that's on getthebestcbdoil.com. There's a 3 or 4 minute video from the documentary that this gentleman did where, within 3 minutes of putting CBD oil in between his cheek and his gum, all of the shaking and the tremoring stopped, okay? Because our brain is being inundated every day, and this is part of the plan, brother. You know this. Cell phone towers, cell phone radiation, smart meters, and that's with the 4G network. We're going to the 5G network for the world brain. And the number one killer of our children in this country is a brain cancer called glioblastoma. And they know it's caused from cell phone use. That's the number one killer of our children. And so our brains are being constantly inundated, and they go into what's called the fight or flight mode. This is what Dr. Christopher Shade talks about on the website, getthebestcbdoil.com. That's why people's brains, and they don't shut off. They're constantly on social media. They're on their cell phones or their smartphones. And then this EMF radiation hitting us constantly, the brain goes into the fight or flight mode, which then sends the body. The body doesn't even know how to handle it. And we go into depression and anxiety and a brain fog. I talk to people, they say, I can hardly think. I go to work and I'm sitting in front of a computer and I have a brain fog so thick I can hardly do my job. And they take a spray of the CBD oil that we carry and it clears up within a few minutes. But that's what we're inundated with every day, and it's not by accident. Okay? And then as the brain gets more inundated, what do you get? Neurodegeneration. Neuro means brain. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia. And the CBD oil is absolutely turning it around. If you get infections, the super silver product, and the super silver, I never recommend antibiotics. But if somebody has to take antibiotics, they take super silver with it. We have published medical studies. It makes the antibiotics 100 times more effective. So what are we facing as we come into this winter time of the year? We're facing, unbelievable problems with, I get calls every day, sinus infections. And I ask people, gee, have they been spraying the chemtrails in your area? Oh, they've been spraying like crazy. Well, what do you think's causing your sinus infection? They're spraying infections on you. You breathe it in. Lung infections, sinus infections. Spray the super silver up into your sinuses. Get a nebulizer. Because my fear is that this winter they are going to release some major pandemic in the United States because enough people are waking up because of wonderful watchmen like yourself, Vincent. People are waking up. They're listening to radio shows and YouTube channels and understanding everything they've told us is corruption. Everything is a lie. They've been lying to us our whole life. But now people are waking up and saying, you know what? I'll go to a doctor, a trauma center, if I have a trauma. Outside of that, I ain't going to a doctor. The pharmaceutical industry is going to have to just, go to war with the products like CBD oil that they can't find anything it doesn't help with. So Here we are, and please, I beg you, Vincent, you keep up the work of the Watchmen. You're helping
Glenn,
people.
let me give out your number one more time. 480-429-0021. 480-429-0021. Glenn, will you come back with us on the air?
I'm sorry?
Will you come back on the air with us?
You betcha. Anytime you want me, brother, you just call me.
I'll give you a call. Glenn, thank you so much.
And God bless you, brother. Take care. Bye-bye.